you know, if God can love me that much and prepare me for that time, I go on that walk, all those things come together. You know, for anybody that's listening, how much does he love you too? You know, the very details of your lives. If he wants to do that for me, he wants to do that for everybody. He longs for us to know how much he loves us, doesn't he?
Hello out there, and welcome to Faith in God's Lord Ministry. And today, I've got Tim, our wonderful brother. Tim, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, lovely to be here.
Let us talk about your calling to ministry.
Yep.
Please.
Yeah, sure.
How did it happen?
I mean, I got a job with a Christian youth organisation, which was Frontier Youth Trust, which is part of Scripture Union, and I covered a big part of the eastern side of the country, so 8 counties. But I moved to Thetford, where I now live, and I started going to this church, and I knew immediately that this church was very important. So I was working for a Christian organisation, part of a church, and I don't know if you can relate to this, but you go somewhere sometimes and you think, I fit here.
Yes.
I belong here, you know, it's right. And I felt that almost instantly. It wasn't the easiest church, you know, it was in a difficult place, but I just thought, you know, I'm comfortable here. And so I suppose I did my job with Frontier Youth Trust, living there for about the next 7 or 8 years. And then I got to a point where I just thought, I mean, we were a small church. We'd had a split. We were tiny. We were struggling, really. But inside, I thought, I think God's asking me to do this. And this is all I would say.
Bring everybody together.
To bring together, maybe to guide. And that's what I felt. And if I look back, I mean, I was supporting youth workers for a long time. And I do remember going to visit them and saying to them, you know, how's it going in your youth work? That was my job. How's it going? I mean, this is youth work with young people in the community, not in the church. How's it going? But I'd also say to them, and how's the church going? So in other words, I always had within me that sense of, I want to know how it's all going, and not just the youth work. And I think that was linked to what happened then. So it's just something I felt, and then it didn't go away. It got stronger. This sense of, I want to do this. It just got stronger. And so that's really my calling. It wasn't dramatic, but it was just a growing sense.
Tim, any success story that you'd like to share with us in your ministry?
From a church ministry?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are. So this is somebody that I work with in the local community who's a local councillor, local guy. And I chair the local residents group, have done for over 20 years. So that means we gather a number of residents together and people come along. And he's come along, I've known him for about 5 years. And one of the first time, I mean, he likes football and I played a lot of football in my life. So we had that interest in common. But when he came into the church for the first time, or after a few weeks of coming to the residents group, he said to me, Tim, you do realise, don't you, that this is the second church I've ever walked into in my whole life. And the first time was when I got married. And he said that as a banter. This is a lovely conversation, you know, but recently, I mean, and we've built up a good relationship, worked together on a number of things. And recently, he said 2 things to me that are very significant. One is he said, he came in to pop in to see me at the church, and as we were going out, he said, you know, he said, I don't believe any of this stuff, do you? He said, but there is a presence about churches. And that's the word he used. There's a presence about churches. And sometimes when I'm out out for the day with the missus or abroad on holidays, I go into churches because there's a presence about them. And the other thing is that he is actually going to become the mayor. I'm the chaplain to the mayor at the moment in Thetford, which is a real privilege, first time ever. And this guy, this councillor, is probably going to be the mayor next year. And he's already said to me, you know, you do realise, Tim, you're the only person I would ask, because nobody else, you know, he doesn't like formality, so being the mayor is going to be a bit of a challenge for him. But I think he thinks that I'm the only one that kind of, he'd be all right to do it with. I think that's a really good news story.
It is. If I say Ellel, does it say anything to you?
Yeah, well, I was saying earlier that one of the things that keeps you going is when God does amazing things in your life. So hopefully this story won't be too long, but I'll try and explain to you, because I've recently been to Ellel Ministries, Ellel Grange in Lancashire. And the reason I went was because it's a long story, but I'm getting married for the first time in less than 3 months' time.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. You know, when you go on a long journey, you think, well, I'm going on a really long journey. It's going to be a bit challenging for the car. I better have a service. I better get it, make sure I've got nothing wrong with it. I thought, well, I'm going to go to, I've been to Ellel before, it's been really good for me. I think I should go to Ellel before I get married to make sure I'm in the right place spiritually before I get married. So God did two things while I was at Ellel. The first was we thought about what had gone wrong in my childhood and stuff like that, and what they do is they ask God to remove that brokenness and our own. I say sorry to God for how I may have reacted to situations. We ask God to remove that brokenness, heal it, and for me to have to break any ties with the past that have made me think in a wrong way, you know. So in my case, it might be that maybe I come to somewhere and I feel a bit lonely, but rather than sort of asking God to help me, it all goes in here, you know. So we asked God to heal that, and He did that. But secondly, I asked God to give me a direct experience of knowing His love for myself, like the prodigal son. When the prodigal son came back to his father, he said, you know, he knelt before him, and his father just embraced him and just welcomed him unconditionally, loved him, welcomed him, and I needed to have that experience for myself. So in my case, that meant that the person who was praying for me, the two people praying for me, asked me to kneel, and they anointed me and asked God to show me that was me and God. It wasn't me observing the person next to me or anything else. It was for me.
Wow.
And it is powerful. And one thing happened after that, which was astonishing, as I went for a walk along the canal near Ellel after this experience, and I was walking along the canal, and I come back along the path. I went down the path, come back down the path. I'm thinking to myself, oh, well, I'm coming back down the path. This is a bit like going back to Ellel. It's a bit like the prodigal son going back to the father. So, and I say to God, well, I've been talking a lot, God. I probably ought to listen, Lord, Father, you know. And I thought, I said, Father, I really ought to listen to you. I think, oh, yeah, I can call you Father because of really, in a new way, because of what's just happened. And so I guess I'm your son, you know. And I'm thinking, but hold on a minute. Can I call myself God's son? Because Jesus, you know what I mean? Our Lord Jesus is.
Yes.
We don't want to put ourselves on the same level as Him. He was God's son. So I'm thinking. So I said to God, "Can I call myself your son?" And I thought, well, yeah, I guess I can, but I don't feel worthy to call myself your son. And then I suddenly realised that in the story of the prodigal son, the son who's returning to the father says to him, I'm not worthy to be called your son.
Oh, yes.
And so I just cry, because God has, in the most amazingly intimate detail, shown me that He is absolutely at work in my life in those moments. The level of detail is incredible. And, you know, if God can love me that much and prepare me for that time.
Yes.
I go on that walk. All those things come together.
Yes.
You know, for anybody that's listening,
Yes.
how much does he love you too? You know, the very details of your lives. If he wants to do that for me, he wants to do that for everybody. He longs for us to know how much he loves us, doesn't he?
You are watching Faith in God's Lord Ministries. Today, my guest is my brother Tim. Tim, we're going to say bye now.
Great.
Anything that you have to say, like last word before we say bye to them?
No, I just want to wish everybody the best and encourage them to, looking for these new clothes, I think. Just keep seeking after God and asking him to. The bravest prayer is to say, Lord, whatever you need to do in me, do it. If you're willing to pray that prayer, he will honour that prayer.
I would say all the best. Your wedding.
Thank you.
Your wedding day.
Thank you very much.
Tim,
God bless.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Take care. Bye.